Hey book girlies, I'm Sarah.
Hey gamer guys, it's Ian.
You remembered. Boo.
We'll find out.
And you're listening. Sorry about
To
that.
traffic.
Oh, this is what we get for living on a busy street in a really old house with no soundproofing. You're actually listening to a pod of sass and sarcasm. Alright, what games have you been playing?
I haven't really been playing too much. Just played more Warframe recently.
You gotta start playing something else, my guy.
Well, this time I was playing their newer game mode, which is kind of like a roguelike.
Yeah. And is it better or worse than your previous experiences?
It's pretty fun. I kind of like this game mode.
Okay.
Roguelikes typically mean you start at 0 every time, and it's like randomized. It's randomized on what activity you're doing, and so you're trying to progress through levels, and they're randomized levels, and they get progressively more difficult, and then you get randomized bonuses per run, and so each run is unique, and then when you die or you quit, you start over again, but the difficulty gets harder.
Oh, okay. I got you. Any other game updates for us today? I really want to get into this. I'm like fucking upset right now. I don't know how to feel right now.
No, that's it. I haven't really been playing much else. I just played a little bit.
I was so convinced you were gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna drag this out and like make you fucking wait, bitch.
You know what? I'm gonna talk about game systems a little bit more.
Oh my god. Alright, can I please tell you about my book? Because I'm fucking dying.
I suppose.
Okay. So, quick recap of where we're at. Skye's sister Deidre is missing, but it's really unclear still if she ran away, if she was abducted, or if some kind of magic was involved. We find out through flashbacks that Skye has a history of hating her sister for no apparent reason, and claiming to be her protector, but doing literally shit all, when it actually counts to, like, actually protect her. We learned that Skye is very concerned about her reputation and her appearance. Not necessarily like about her looks, but about how basically her reputation comes across to other people.
A typical teenager type stuff.
Yeah. She kind of wants to come across as more grown up than she actually is, which is a stark contrast to Deidre, who seems to refuse to grow up. After hearing a kerfuffle on the roof or in the attic or wherever, and finding no explanation for the noise, and after cleaning up the leaves in Deidre's room, finding her old sword, and yeeting it into the yard, Skye sneaks out to go to a shitty party where her friend calls Deidre a freak, and Skye calls her friend a man whore, and then she leaves. Then, on her way back home, she hears a bell and sees a little light and tries to follow it, but falls into a creek, and then a suspicious police officer, quote-unquote, comes to her aid, and then her mom comes out, hoping that Deidre had returned, only to be disappointed that it's her other, arguably shittier daughter, just being a little dipshit. And then we left off with Skye saying that she felt like something was calling to her, drawing her into the woods, and she's a little bit convinced that maybe Deidre followed a similar call. That's where we left off.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of this book again?
This book is Here There Are Monsters by Amelinda Berube. So the next chapter starts off in a flashback. Now we're in September, so we're getting closer and closer to, like, filling in from when they moved in to when Deidre disappeared. So we're back in September. School starts off for the sisters at their new schools, and Skye is determined to blend in with the crowd. She doesn't want to be popular, but she also doesn't want to be a loner. She doesn't want to be the freak, and she doesn't want to be known as the freak's sister either.
Oh, too bad. You don't got a choice on that one.
She doesn't want to be known for beating people up, which I'm like, there's a really easy fix for that. Don't fucking beat people up then. And she doesn't want to play pretend with her sister anymore. And she's not sure about William at first after they had that initial meeting back in August.
Where the sister hissed at him?
Yeah.
Or no, you're imagining her hissing.
I imagined that she hissed at him. It was nowhere in the book. I must give Amelinda Berube credit. She did not make Deidre hiss at him. That was just a product of my own imagination. But goddamn, that would have been funny. No, she just made her be kind of... Oh my god. Anyway, so... She's not really sure about William at first, even after they played Catan and didn't apparently start a rivalry about it, because they didn't play it right, in my opinion. And as school starts, she finds out that William has multiple sides to him. Because, like, when he came over to her house, he seemed very, like, shy and geeky and awkward and kind of cautious, self-conscious, all of those kinds of adjectives. But then at school, he's hanging out with the jocks and the popular kids and stuff like that. And he ditched his glasses for contacts when he's in school. And he makes these kind of crude and lewd jokes. There was one conversation that he and Kevin were having about the perfect size of boobs. And I don't remember which one of them said something about how, like, you really just need a handful. That was a good size for boobs. And not gonna lie, he sounds like you.
No.
You come across as this very, like, lewd and, like, jock type guy. You were, like, you were an athlete. You were a jock in high school, and you made horrible jokes. You played basketball. Like, but then at the same time, you're this geeky guy who loves video games and board games, and you like reading, and you like all this other kind of shit. Like,
I'm all over the place.
You're all over the place, and so is William, apparently. So then one night, Kevin throws a party, because Kevin is apparently a party animal, and his parents are apparently never home. I don't remember why or how Skye gets invited, probably William, but, like, she gets invited to this party. And while they're having, like, normal conversations and bantering, this is also when the boob conversation happened with, like, the perfect size for boobs. Somehow Skye pipes up with the fact that she's a blue belt in karate. And she tries to play it cool, like she's not someone who literally beat up children who are 3 years younger than her, which I didn't even touch on last time, because when we think about how the fact that she's beating up Deidre's bullies are probably in Deidre's class, meaning that they're like 3 years younger than Skye, so she's fucking drop kicking these little kids across the yard and being like, "Don't pick on my sister," and I'm like, you're a fucking asshole.
She's like, "I got your back, girl," and just roundhouse kicks some child in the face.
That's horrible, but that's what I'm picturing now. Okay.
And Deidre's like, "I'll sick my sister on you."
Yeah, I'd be fucking scared. So, they're at this party, and she's, talking about how she's a blue belt in karate, and Kevin is like, bullshit and whatever, and she's like, no, seriously, and so she starts showing William how to punch, because he seemed interested in whatever, and so she's like, this is how you punch somebody, or whatever, and, like, she, has to, like, he, like, made a fist or something, and he put his thumb in the wrong spot, and she's like, actually, you have to move it here, and she touches his hand, which, in every book, hand touching is, like, code for they're gonna bang later.
Step 1, physical contact.
So, yeah, so she, like, adjusts his hand and is like, yeah, that's how you punch. And Kevin keeps egging them on and whatever, and eventually they get to this, like, conversation where he's like, I bet you couldn't hit me, and she's like, oh yeah, I fucking could, and he's like, yeah, fucking try it, and she's like, okay, and she does. She punches him in the face, doesn't break his nose or anything like that, literally she just did it to hurt him kind of thing, but, like, whatever, and he is, like, super embarrassed. And obviously there's somebody there at the party who films that whole thing, and then, like, it goes on...
If it's modern time.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a phone all the time.
Oh, yeah. So they film it, they post it on Instagram, and then they are like, hey, we want to tag you in it. And she's like, oh, I'm not on social media. Because apparently, before she moved, she literally got rid of all of her social media and, like, tried to leave zero trace of who she used to be. So I'm like, what happened? Why did you do that? Like, that's so fucking weird. Because she's a fucking creep, man. Mm-hmm. I don't like Skye anymore. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. I'm fucking irritated as shit with her. A few days later, Deidre is apparently throwing a tantrum at the house. But honestly, with the way that Skye tells stuff, it's probably just Deidre, like, voicing an opinion and Skye being the one that's overreacting to it. Skye is the one fucking throwing a tantrum. But anyways, Skye goes out for a walk around her family's property, around the neighborhood, and she goes into that empty lot that's near their house where that big dirt pile is that Deidre has claimed as her castle and shit like that. While she's there, she finds William, her neighbor, the geeky guy that's like you.
I don't want to be like, William.
You don't want to be like Willie?
No.
Because he's a dick? He's not as big of a dick as Kevin is in this story, but, like...
but they're friends, so they're dicks.
Together.
They're a pair of dicks.
They're a pair of dicks. Well, guess what William's doing in the dirt field?
Jorking it.
Close enough. He is shooting some arrows.
Oh, okay. Is that close enough?
It's not. I was just trying to be silly. So he's shooting some arrows at some targets. And the two of them start chatting for a bit. He's apparently a very skilled marksman, which Skye finds out when she goes to retrieve his arrows from the target, and they're all in the red part of the target, the part that you aim for. I just want to read this cute scene because I do find it kind of cute that the two of them, clearly, they're gonna bang later. I've got a feeling.
Sub-feelings for each other.
Because they touched hands. So I do know that they've got some kind of interest in each other. So anyways, don't judge, he called after me. It always psychs me out when people are watching. But he needn't have worried because all 3 arrows were buried in the red. The target, a woven fabric bag that might have once held rice, crinkled under my touch as I yanked them out. Holy shit, William, you're Robin Hood, I called back to him, and he laughed. Everyone needs a zombie apocalypse skill, right? Like your martial arts. I jogged back to cross the lot, arrows in hand. Arrows are way better for that than martial arts. You'd get bit for sure if you tried to grapple with a zombie. Anyway, you could hunt for food like this. William's smile tilted. You wouldn't want me to be the hunter in the zombie apocalypse. We'd starve for sure. Can't hit a moving target? No, I'm pretty good at that, actually. He ran a hand over his hair. I'm just not so good with the whole blood and guts part of hunting, you know? Really? He shrugged. My dad's always after me to go with him. The whole point of teaching me how to use a bow, right? He says it's something you get used to. Personally, puking over it the once was enough for me. I just like to shoot. He turned away abruptly, maybe thinking he'd said too much, and fired 3 arrows off again in quick succession. I went out again to retrieve them. I get that, I said as I made my way back to him, not wanting the confession to be awkward. It's hard to get used to the idea of yourself as a predator. Nah, he said. I'm kind of a shitty predator is all. I couldn't eat the meat from the deer we killed. Dad just about lost it. He wouldn't let me leave the table. We were sitting there past midnight. And I mean, he's right. It's more humane than factory farming, really. I should probably be a vegetarian. Like, what kind of hypocrite does that make me if I'll eat meat but can't kill it? He dropped his gaze to the bow, fidgeting with the string. But that would really put him over the edge, probably. Isn't that kind of the point of civilization? I handed him the arrows. Not having to be predators anymore? More like not having to be prey. It's kind of the same thing. Some people would never have to be predators except for in self-defense. Careful. I had to be careful, or I'd be the one saying too much. I bet you could be a predator in the zombie apocalypse, if you had to. Which, I'm like, what a weird conversation, but, like, also kind of adorable.
I like how we get in her mind there for a moment, like, oh, don't say too much.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, you're fucking dangerous there. And also her comment earlier about how, like, it can be hard to, like, think of yourself as a predator. And I'm like, you act like you're talking from experience. Have you thought of yourself as a predator before?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, for
She
sure.
definitely has.
She definitely has. The next, obviously, like, thing to do in this conversation is he tries to teach her how to use a bow and arrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at least, oh my god, more props to this author. She doesn't do the thing of making, like, you know, like in movies when somebody's teaching somebody else how to shoot, that they'll, like, stand right up behind them and, like, wrap their arms around them and basically shoot the thing at the same time or whatever. Like, she doesn't do that, thank God, because it's so annoying. But he does gently touch her in some places. Like, he's like, you need to bring it up to your cheek, and he'll touch, like, her cheek or whatever. And then he's like, you need to do this and whatever. And I'm like, that's kind of cute. You're, like, lightly touching her and then getting really self-conscious about it, which is kind of adorable. You want to make sure you draw it to your armpit, like this, and not across your chest. This is not so much a problem for guys, but, well, the last thing you want to do is to hit yourself there with the bowstring. One more reason why all you need is a handful, I guess.
Throwing it back at him.
William made a derisive noise, but didn't meet my eye, looking away at the targets instead. He might have been blushing. Kevin's an idiot, he said, and handed me an arrow. I'm fucking screaming. That's so goddamn cute. So, you don't want to hit your titties with the bowstring.
With the bowstring, yeah.
So, apparently, Skye's a little bit of a natural at archery, and so then the two of them start talking about practicing together, and they're interrupted, of course, by Deidre storming out. Oh, great, I sighed. William raised a hand to wave, but Deidre graced him only with a single baleful look before focusing on me. What are you doing? She demanded. Target practice, William supplied. Dear, you should totally see this, I told her, William's blunt friendliness shaming me into following suit. You'll love it. But Deidre was having none of it. You're out here with him? You never want to go exploring with me, but you'll come out here with him? Will you stop being ridiculous and just listen for a second? I caught her elbow, tried to pull her over. This is the coolest thing ever. You're a traitor. She yanked her arm away from me. Bringing him here to my place? Him? How could you? You're supposed to be my champion. Hey, William said, finally getting defensive. I've been coming down here since before they even built your house. He doesn't belong here, Deidre shouted over him. You're siding with the invaders. Traitor! We're invaders too, Deidre. Nobody even owns this lot. Her lips curled. You like him, don't you? Oh my god. I didn't dare look at William. I opened my mouth to say something withering, but she cut me off. You do! Her eyes were bright, threatening tears. You're choosing him instead of me. Right, because I talked to him for 5 minutes. Just wait until he figures out what you're really like. He won't like you back for long. She glowered at William. You watch it. You just watch yourself. I warned you.
Ooh.
Whatever, queen of melodrama, I snapped. But she was already pushing her way toward the house, leaving me to kick my heel down into the grass in thwarted fury. So that's, like, interesting. That Deidre, like, basically insinuates that Skye is normally a horrible person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who she really is, and stuff like that.
It's like, you don't know what my sister's actually like.
She's actually a fucking raging bitch! Because she is. She's quite awful. William eventually says that he shouldn't use that area anymore as target practice.
Oh, what a nice guy.
Right? He's like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't come here anymore to, like, shoot arrows. And Skye is like, what the fuck? Just because she threw a temper tantrum, you're now saying, like, oh, maybe I won't come here? Don't, like, give her that kind of satisfaction. He's like, no, that's not what this is about. It's about, like, safety. What if she was out here and I didn't know? And what if I missed and I fucking hit her? And then Skye, of course, is, like, kind of considering, like, would that be such a bad thing? Like,
she's like, just hit her.
Just hit her.
Just hit her.
And so Skye insists that Deidre shouldn't get what she wants just because she threw a tantrum. But honestly, I'm on Deidre's side still. Like, Deidre has every right to be angry. Because, while yes, I think that Skye deserves to have her own life and her own friends, and she should be able to hang out with whomever she wants to, whenever she wants to, wherever she wants to. But Deidre is also right that Skye is refusing to hang out with her and, like, purposely excluding her from stuff.
Because it sounds like she hasn't walked around anywhere with Deidre in the new place.
Literally, and she's
all.
like, I don't want to be associated with her and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't really have sympathy for Skye in this situation. I'm like, nah, Deidre's right. You're being a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we enter into part 2 of the book. And I don't know how many parts there are in the book, but I'm guessing 3. Because each part has like an epigraph from, and it's like a stanza from Gwendolyn McGowan's, I don't know how to say her last name, I'm sorry, poem, The Dark Pines Underwater. The poem only has 3 stanzas, and so, like, part 1 had stanza 1, part 2 now has stanza 2, and so I bet part 3 is going to have stanza 3 of the same poem, and then that's the end of the book, I would assume?
Yeah, books are typically broke up into 3 if they're broke up at all.
That's not my experience, but alright.
Really?
I've had a lot of books be broken into 3 parts. I've had them broken into 2 parts. I've read books that are broken into 5 parts, so...
Those are all bad authors, then. 3 is the good number.
Oh my god. It also kind of checks out because I, like, checked, and I'm about 100 pages in, and there's, like, 300-something pages total in the book, so I'm like, okay, I'm about a third of the way. Which is kind of scary, because I'm at a point where I'm like, I still don't know what's going on if there's magic.
You don't even know what's happened.
Yeah, like, it's been, like, a day since Deidre went missing, and then we keep getting these flashbacks, which are very insightful, but I'm also like, what the fuck's going on? Hello? So anyways, it feels like stanza 1 is almost like addressing Deidre, and stanza 2 is addressing William, and I'm curious. I went and read the whole poem, but I'm not going to spoil the 3rd stanza for you, because I don't know who the 3rd stanza is going to be about. So the way that it's laid out in the book, it goes, Part 1, Deidre. This land, like a mirror, turns you inward, and you become a forest in a furtive lake. The dark pines of your mind reach downward. You dream in the green of your time. Your memory is a row of sinking pines. Part 2, William. Explorer, you tell yourself, this is not what you came for, although it is good here, and green. You had meant to move with a kind of largeness. You had planned a heavy grace, an anguished dream. I like this poem. I don't know what it's about, but I like it a lot, and I probably need to sit with it a little bit longer to really understand what it's like, but... Okay, so I'm on chapter 8, and it starts with Skye waking up the night after she snuck out to Kevin's party. So, like, we're back in the present day. And that also means that we're approaching the 48-hour mark from Deidre going missing. And that's not looking good, because in most missing person cases, the first 48 hours are the most crucial, because after 48 hours, the likelihood of the person turning up dead, like, significantly increase. So, like, we're running out of time to find her alive, in my opinion. Anyways. So, Skye goes upstairs to find her dad dinking around on the computer. And very suddenly and awkwardly, she's, like, acknowledging her guilty feelings. She says that she didn't mean to fall asleep the day that Deidre went missing, and she wasn't really sure what happened. And her dad hugs her, but also tells her to be quiet, because Sarah, the mom, stayed up for most of the night and was finally sleeping. So he's like, shut the fuck up, kid. I'm glad that you feel guilty, because you're kind of a bitch and this is kind of your fault. He didn't say it like that. He was like, it'll be okay, kid. But shh.
But shut the fuck up.
Your mom's asleep. So, while her dad is making coffee, Skye leans against the patio door, noting that it apparently rained the previous night, because, like, there's moisture and whatever, and that also doesn't bode super well for Deidre's case, because any of the sniffer dogs are going to have a harder time picking up her scent because of all the rain that will wash it away. And apparently they already didn't have that much luck the previous day with the sniffer dogs. And then Skye notices that there are a bunch of mouse skulls lined up on the patio railing. Remember that Deidre had been collecting mouse skulls from, she claimed, owl pellets. I still don't believe anything anybody says. And also, remember that when Skye found her old sword, she went out onto the patio or the balcony to, like yeet it off.
Yeah.
And either Skye is way more unobservant than I've already given her credit. She's not the most observant person, but, like, she's either more unobservant than I originally thought, or those skulls weren't there when she did the yeeting. Meaning that somebody went up there and put them there. Because they're lined up. Like, it's not like they're just, like, scattered there or something. They're, like, lined up neatly. Okay? She calls her dad over, and he suggests that maybe an animal left them there, which I'm like...
Alright, buddy.
Sure. Because but his reasoning, because, like, she was like, who could have done this? And he's like, how could they have done it is more my question, because this is, like, one of those... I get the impression that it's, like, a split-level house. They don't really explain the house very well because it's Skye. She doesn't tell you anything. And so I think it's one of those split-level houses where, like, the balcony patio thing is, like, raised, but there's no stairs on the outside to get to it. You can only get to it from inside the house kind of thing.
So we're in outside of the parents' bedroom?
It's, like, outside of the kitchen, I want to say, or the living room or something like that.
Yeah, this house layout is confusing.
I don't understand the house layout at all.
Yeah.
But, like, remember, her room is in the basement kind of thing, but I'm wondering if that's, like, if it's not fully, like, an underground basement kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I just don't know how anybody would have gotten up here because there's no stairs or whatever. And so that's why he suggests maybe it was an animal. And then Skye asks if he thinks that the police might let her help with the search. And he's like, well, they wouldn't let me help, so probably not, kid. And she explains the thing about the sword and how maybe Deidre wanted Skye to come looking for her and was trying to send her messages with the sword and the skulls. He's, like, one of the only reasonable characters, it seems like, in this story. He's like, it really doesn't matter if she wanted you to come searching for her or whoever she wanted to come searching for her. The fact of the matter is, nobody can find her right now. So, let the police do their job. You don't need to go searching for her. All that kind of stuff. But he did say, he's like, you should tell the police about the sword and about the skulls. Because, again, how did the police miss the sword? I don't understand that. But anyways. He fixes me with a look. But you stay out of the woods. Got it? I stare into my coffee to avoid his eyes. It's true. There's nothing I could do out there. If she were just waiting somewhere to hear my voice, they'd have found her in about 5 minutes. There's a knock at the front door, and Dad hurries to answer it. I trail over to the computer. It's open to the latest post on the search page. Deidre's smiling face again. A non-update. There's nothing to tell. And a plea for information that's followed by an endless string of useless, mealy-mouthed comments. I hope she's enjoying this, having everyone's absolute, undivided attention. Bitch, your sister is fucking missing! And you're being a, like, little sassafras about it. Like, I hope you're enjoying this. Getting everyone's undivided... Like, she could be dead! And you're being like, you're such a bitch for being missing.
Yeah, pretty much.
God damn. I hate Skye. I'm sorry. I hate her so much. Like, I get she's a teenager and she's dumb and she's teenagering so fucking hard. But I'm like, I don't understand her. Like, I don't understand her motivations. I don't understand why she hates her sister so much. Her sister literally has never done anything, like, in my opinion, that's wrong. Yeah. So Skye closes that window on the computer, and then suddenly a satellite map pops up of their house and the surrounding area. So I'm like, Google Maps, I'm assuming, in the satellite view kind of thing. Our street is a gentle curve, the last clean line of civilization before the wilderness takes over. There's a blank brown expanse of the empty lot, and the brush that fades back into the woods, a gray haze at its edges. The zigzag pencil line of the creek slices through the trees, eventually meeting another that sneaks off in a different direction, off the screen to the west. She always wanted to know what was back there. I scroll across to follow it, a thin porcelain crack running through the green expanse of the woods. The creek ends in a huge beige oval, dead grass maybe, that eats into the forest like a patch of mold. The water widens into a black swath down in its middle. That beige tumor is the size of the whole subdivision, and then some, miles across. I can't stop staring at it. Spooky, right? I'm getting spooked.
Like, what's going on?
I'm like, oh. Okay. So, Officer Luddick, who was the person that was at the door, because he's coming in to give them an update because it's, the next day. Deidre's dad had, informed him, hey, there's, fucking mouse skulls lined up on our fucking balcony. You want to do something about that? And so he's, taking in Skye's statement about the skulls and how she found them and stuff like that, and also about the sword and that whole situation. And in the middle of this conversation, Skye also offers up that Deidre has a collection of these mouse skulls in her room. And her dad raises his eyebrows like he didn't know that his daughter was a fucking weirdo. I'm like, you didn't know that Deidre collected mouse skulls, you freak? She's a freak, Skye's a freak, both your kids are freaks, okay? Goddamn. And so then Leduc tells Skye to check to see if Deidre's collection is still in her room. Skye also asks Officer Leduc about the weird beige spot
okay,
on the
good.
map.
I was like, she better ask someone about it.
Yeah, I know. That would have been really annoying if she was just like, that's so fucking weird. I can't stop staring about it. Stays quiet. No, she asks him about that weird spot on the map after they have their little conversation about the skulls and the sword. Out of curiosity, what is that? I point to the beige oval on the screen. Dad leans over to look, casts an inquiring glance at Officer Leduc. The long swamp, Officer Leduc supplies.
I think it's funny. They're like, the swamp, it's brown. Swamps aren't brown.
No, it's beige.
Swamps are green. Very green.
The long swamp, Officer Leduc supplies. At the bottom of the valley, see? That part of the road used to flood every spring. On the other side of the pale patch, a cross street runs along another expanse of woods, almost as deep. I scroll down past the swamp. Down, down. The green sea seems trackless in its direction, bottomless, marked only once by a long straight scar for power lines. It takes forever before I find another road, all the way out past the next little satellite suburb. When the gray line of pavement finally appears on the screen, Dad sits back, letting out a little puff of breath like someone's hit him. It's huge, he says, hugging his coffee cup close. I didn't realize... My God. We're focusing on the immediate area, Officer Leduc puts in firmly. A 2-mile radius. She can't be moving very fast. Which I'm like, why is nobody treating this like she's been abducted? Literally my first thought when I heard this was I'm like, did somebody fucking come in and take her? Okay, there's this weird mystery, there might be magic and stuff like that, and ignoring that, why is everyone so convinced that she ran away?
And it's only 2 miles?
That's what I'm saying!
Even in rough terrain, you can make that in an hour.
Yeah, and it's okay, she doesn't have boots. It's getting cold, but I'm like, what if she was taken?
If she was taken, they're gone.
They're gone. What the fuck? I'm so confused. So we're not treating her like the victim of an abduction, which is super suspicious. And even though Deidre is an outdoorsy kid, we've already found her boots, which would suggest to me that she's not out there willingly.
Yeah.
Because, why would she go out there without her boots? And we still don't know where they found her boots or in, what condition they were in or what was going on. We just know that the police officers found them and brought them back.
Yeah.
So
know that they've been found.
Yeah, because, again, this is all from Skye's perspective, and so she doesn't know how they were found. She just knows that they were found. Going back to the 2-mile radius, I think it's super suspicious that they're we're just going to look at this tiny little radius. Even though your property abuts the wilderness, and we know that your kid is outdoorsy and likes to explore the wilderness. Yeah, no, we're just going to look in these 2 miles right here. And specifically, they know that she was curious about a specific area, too, across the creek, Skye just said that. So I'm Anyways, At this point in the book, that officer that I'm gonna always use air quotes when I talk about that one guy who helped Skye when she fell in the creek, because he seems super suspicious. I don't know who the fuck that guy is.
He's like, don't drown, child. Your parents will have nothing left.
But like, it pops into my mind of if he is actually a police officer, which I don't know, but if he is actually a police officer, it almost strikes me as, you know, the movie Hot Fuzz, right?
Yeah.
Because you showed that movie to me. I'm like, oh my god, is the whole town in on this conspiracy? Or at least the whole police department? And so they're like, we're only going to focus on this area over here because we know she's over there. And like, we're going to like just like cover this up because that particular police officer is kind of a freak and was into your freak daughter in a freaky way. I don't know. That's clearly not what's happening, but it just popped into my head and I was like, oh, suspicious. There's a conspiracy happening. That's what happened to my brain. So, Skye also suggests that they should put some effort into looking in the swamp. I poke at the trackpad, pan back up to the long, pale wound in the green depths. I wonder how deep that water was this time of year. It must be cold. Maybe she went that way, I say, hesitantly, along the creek. Officer Leddick gives me a somber look, then turns back to the screen with a sigh. Anything's possible, he says quietly. But it'd be mighty cold without boots. Which, it's like, yeah, it would be cold without boots, but like...
How about you start looking, buddy?
How about you start looking where her family member who knows her pretty well says she might be, you know? I mean, just saying. So later, when Skye's mom finally wakes up, she's pissed as fuck that nobody woke her up. She's like, I said to wake me up when the police got here, and Skye's like, well, Dad said to let you sleep. Your dad's a fucking idiot. And then she just, like, storms out the door. She's like, I'm not talking to you. And I'm not going to judge Sarah. Because you know what? Sarah's been through some shit, okay? And her name is Sarah. She spells it wrong. But, like, you know what? That's not her problem. That's not her fault. That's Amelinda Berube's fault, okay? She's missing her child. She has every right to be as bitchy as she wants to be, you know? Okay? And Skye is an unreliable narrator and hates her mom for no reason. For putting fucking food on the table and
giving her karate lessons.
Like, just being a good mom. Okay? Skye's giving her too much shit. Sarah has a bad reputation. I'm here to say that I stand with Sarah. Sarah's my girl. I like Sarah. So she goes out to talk to the police. And she doesn't talk to Skye about the previous night and about how Skye, like, snuck out. Because, again, that was just last night. She snuck out to go to a fucking party while her sister's missing. Like a bitch. And she just goes outside in her robe, again, to go talk to the police. The front door opens and closes again with a bang that echoes through the whole silent house. The distant drone of the helicopter shivers through the walls. Outside, a bark and jingle and a pair of men's voices announce the return of the K9 unit. From the window, above the sink, I can just see a bushy tail of a big German shepherd weaving back and forth around the feet of the balcony. After a couple of circuits, it tosses its head, pulls its ears back. Its tail curls down between its legs, and despite the encouragement of its handlers, it shrinks backward into the garden and flattens itself into the dirt, whimpering. Even when they urge it forward, it won't move. As the police officers stand over the dog, making gestures of bafflement, it takes off like a shot, bolting back to the road, leaving the officers to chase after it. I don't know anything about police dogs, but I don't think that's normal. Not that you could blame the dog for wanting to get the hell out of here. I know the feeling. Shut the fuck up, Skye! Like, I'm like intrigued. I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck is the dog freaking out about?
The skull magic.
Skull magic. You know what is probably freaking out? It's like, oh my god, I smell a bitchy sister. I gotta get the fuck out of here. So Skye texts William, and she's like, hey, I want to shoot something. And he's like, sounds totally great. Here's the issue. Our normal spot, you know, the big dirt pile that's by your house, it's kind of like swarming with people. Like, that's so fucking weird. And she's like, you're right.
You're right. The cops are there. Oh my sister's missing. Oh my goodness.
And he's like, well, you can come over to my place. because my family's away, which is suspicious as fuck on so many levels. Because first of all, like, your family also often seems to be away, but also, like...
Kevin's family away, his family away.
Are they dead?
Everyone's dead.
They actually moved to a town where the zombie apocalypse has already happened. Everybody there is dead. But also, just, like, him being like, you wanna bang? That's definitely what that was code for. He was like, I'll make you pancakes, which means, like, I don't know. If we thought that the audacity of this bitch couldn't get any worse.
Oh no, she's nothing but audacity.
Yeah, well, if we thought it couldn't get worse, we were mistaken, because she, again, puts on her hoodie and her sneakers and practically runs out the door. Dad, I yell, stuffing my phone in my pocket. Dad, I'm going over to Williams. I'm out the door without waiting to see if he heard me, plunging through the swarm of activity in the driveway, pulling the hood of my sweater up over my ears, blocking out the cameras and the uniforms and the pitying glances from strangers. Mom steps out of the mobile headquarters, letting the door slap closed behind her, just as I'm hurrying past. Skye? Skye! I'm going to Williams! I toss back at her. Are you kidding me? I recognize the tremor in her voice, and I hunch my shoulders, walk faster. It's the sound of her cool fraying, at its limit. If I stay, I'm about to get 30 hours worth of fear and wrath and no sleep in a single screaming payload. That's the way she works. Hoarding it under a collected and rational shell until it cracks under the strain. Your sister is missing, in case you hadn't noticed. I'll be back later. You're just going to leave? Again? This is your family, Skye. This is why this happened in the first place. Because you couldn't spend so much as an evening. I raise my hand to ward it off. Don't turn around. Keep walking. When I finally give in and glance back, she's stalking back inside. Her arms folded, her hands at her mouth. Dad's about to get it. Better him than me. What a fucking bitch! Like,
what the hell?
What a fucking bitch! I can't stand her. Oh my god. First of all, your dad, so far, seems pretty chill. He's done nothing to deserve this bitching out that you're saying he's about to get. But also, give your mother a break! Like, and also, quit leaving the fucking house!
In reality, what would happen is the mom goes, she's not allowed to leave, and the police go, grab.
Yes.
You ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
She's like, what do you mean I can't go anywhere? You're the custody of your parents, and you can't leave.
Oh my god.
That's not how this works.
Yeah. No.
You grab.
Oh my god.
They go, we can bring you to the station instead.
I'm so afraid to have children because if I have a child like Skye, I'm gonna lose my shit. I'm gonna have to, like, sit her down and have, like, or him, our child down, and I'm gonna be like, listen to this podcast, and if you fucking ever act like this fucking child, you're fucking out of here.
You're dead.
We have a murder hole in the back. We got you. So now we flash back to September again. Maybe a day or two after the last September flashback. And after a family discussion, it was decided that William and Skye would be allowed to use the empty lot for target practice for 2 afternoons a week. And
so they negotiated?
They negotiated for 2 evenings a week. And Deidre, of course, is pissed. But honestly, it's like, to me, I'm like, okay, that is the safest option. Because, like, if Skye and William are going to practice somewhere, they need to be aware of, like, where Deidre is and all that other kind of shit and whatever. So, on the one hand, though, I am also kind of concerned that Skye's parents are not worried about her spending alone time in the middle of nowhere with a boy. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
She's 16. I don't know. It depends on who the audience is meant to read this. Like, if this is a YA novel, I am not the intended audience of this. I am not. No. Which is maybe why I'm so fucking frustrated at Skye, because I'm like, you're a fucking bitch! But, like, if I was a teenager reading this, I'd be like, yeah, Skye, you get it. You know?
Yeah, Skye, you just walk away.
You tell your mom, and you tell your sister that you fucking hate her. Like, I don't know. I don't know, because I'm not a teenager at the moment. But I'm surprised that her parents aren't worried about her, like, spending all this alone time with William. And I'm also confused as to why Deidre doesn't bring that up in all... Because, like, Deidre seems to argue a lot, or at least according to Skye, she argues and, like, throws tantrums a lot. Wouldn't she be like, they're gonna be, like, making out in the dirt castle, they're gonna, like, do something naughty and whatever, like, because she's already like, you like him, so it's like, would she not bring that up as, like, why are you gonna let them hang out together alone, unsupervised, in an area that is pretty private in that, like, the public doesn't come here?
I don't know.
William and Skye use that time as an excuse to get away from their families for even just a little bit. We spent hours shooting mostly in companionable silence, stealing a sliver of time to escape our families. But William would text me at times to hang out with Sophie. Kevin too sometimes. Kevin was aloof at first, but when Sophie greeted me with a peal of, "Skye's here," he didn't dare hold out for long. Suddenly, the evenings I used to spend avoiding Deidre were gloriously full of normal company. Playing video games on the Wii in Sophie's basement, sneaking bottles from Kevin's dad's beer fridge, roaming the neighborhood like we owned it, though there wasn't much of anywhere to go. I kind of love this friend group and the dynamics that are coming out of it. Mm-hmm. They're weird, but kind of in an endearing way. The weird thing about it for me is that they all are pretty, like, I don't want to say obsessed, but, like, intently focused on the zombie apocalypse. Sometimes maybe it's a nuclear apocalypse that they talk about. Any kind of apocalypse. They're obsessed with the apocalypse. They are all dead. How much you want to bet? They're all dead.
No, they're just having fun. Kids talk about weird stuff.
I know.
And maybe they all watched a movie together and they're like,
yeah.
Oh, the apocalypse.
Yeah. What is it with you guys in the end of the world, I asked. It's just interesting, William said. Like, everyone has to show their true colors. Everyone knows who they really are at the end of the world. No more bullshit. No law and order, Kevin added. No rules. I love Kevin. I hated him at first, but I'm like, Kevin, you're my guy. We can just do whatever the fuck we want if there's an apocalypse.
I can do whatever.
The thing that I find really interesting is that Skye is okay with this kind of fantasy talk. Like, this is still fantasy that they're talking about with, like, the apocalypse and whatever. But suddenly, when Deidre wants to play Kingdoms, it's a problem and whatever. I don't understand. Like, what's the difference here? I don't see the difference in how, like, Deidre's like, we've got, like, swords and queens and whatever.
Endless woods and...
Yeah. And then
wonder.
these kids are just, like, hanging out being like...
The end of the world, death and destruction.
No
anarchy.
Laws. No more bullshit. People are who they say they are. Like, they know who they are. Whatever. Yeah, like, hypocrite. She's a hypocrite. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
During this time, Skye seems to be comparing Kevin to Tyler. But she doesn't, like, come out directly and say it. But she implies it by saying that there must have been a machine somewhere that's knocking off copies of the same guy over and over. And now she's kind of in a pickle because she's like, I've never had to, like, stay on speaking terms with one of these clones before, but now I do because Kevin is friends with William, and I kind of like William, and so I have to fucking stay friends with him, I guess, or at least on speaking terms with Kevin. I bet you'd totally survive those zombie apocalypse, I told Kevin. What? Sophie said. So a firearm is a free pass? You have to admit, it's kind of an advantage, William pointed out. Not just that. He's adaptable, I said. Throw him into deep water and he figures out how to float. By pushing people under, if necessary, I thought. He does what it takes. He's a survivor. Sophie smacked Kevin's arm. Pay attention, dumbass. You're getting a compliment. From Skye. That's not a compliment, Kevin said. Come on, William said, laughing. She just said you'd survive the zombie apocalypse. It's true, isn't it? I said, a little bolder. You know how to look out for number one. That's what counts, right? Sure I do, he shot back, unsmiling. And I look out for my people. That's why we'd make it. All of us.
Ooh, he's like, you know what, Skye? You bitch, you think you've narrowed me down? Actually, you haven't.
Because, like, she's basically saying, like...
She's like...
Like, you only care about yourself, you're selfish, you know how to survive and, like, fuck everyone else. And he's like, no, Skye, that's you. You're the one who would leave everyone else behind. I would try to save all of us. You're a fucking bitch.
He's like, you don't know anything about me, girlie.
So, like, now we're starting to see why things are so tense between Skye and Kevin, because earlier in the book, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you two? Like, why do you hate each other?
They see each other for who they are.
That's really what it is. He has her number. He's like, you're fucked in some way, and he knows it. And so, but he's not going to say anything, because he's like,
whatever. I'm a new person.
Yeah.
I control the party.
Exactly. I've got all the beer, so...
I have all the clout.
True, yeah. So it seems like Skye and William begin a flirtation now. They're constantly texting each other, constantly hanging out. And of course, Skye's always leaving Deidre by the wayside. One night at dinner, Skye keeps texting at the table and giggling and smiling at her phone and being super obnoxious, teenagering super hard.
Mm-hmm.
And Deidre's clearly becoming jealous. And she's like, who are you texting? And Skye's like, none of your damn business. And Deidre's like, I bet I know who it is. And Skye's like, I bet you do. Like, super, like, I love the way that she captures, like, that sibling way of arguing. I'm like, yes, gotcha. And their parents are trying to stop it. And they're like, Skye, put your fucking phone away at the dinner table. And she's like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Whatever. And so she puts her phone away and then immediately goes, hey, Mom, can I go to the Bayshore with Sophie after school next week? And I'm like, after that exchange with Deidre and Skye, we know she wasn't just texting with Sophie.
Mm-hmm.
She was clearly just texting with William, like it's like implied. Which means that this question is probably more... I want to go hang out with William, but I'm going to tell you that I'm hanging out with Sophie so that he and I can do some nefarious things, whatever. And so Deidre loses it because she's a smart cookie. She knows what's going on. And so she's like fucking pissed, very jealous. She gets up from the table and just like goes into her room. She's like all upset. And her parents exchange that look, and then her mom's like, all right, I'll go fucking handle this. And so she gets up and follows after her.
And meanwhile, Skye's like, that's not an answer.
Yeah, exactly. Just as well, Mom would have given me a lecture about being kind and considerate when Deidre was having a tough time. The phone in my pocket buzzed again. I stopped myself from reaching for it, but the heat in my chest flared higher. It wasn't my problem if I finally had a life and she didn't. She had the same chance to start over that I did. If she refused to take it, that wasn't my fault. Who are you talking to all the time anyway? Dad asked eventually, wagging his eyebrows in a tired attempt at teasing. Boys. Just William, I said. And Sophie, and Kevin sometimes, I guess. William, Dad said. Oh. He's nice, I told him, warding off a parental concern. And Dad smiled. I know, he said. Your father, Mom said, thinks I should have a talk with you. This is a couple days later. There was like a little, I don't know, a few asterisks? I don't know. The plural of asterisks. There were like 3 of them, and so like, time has passed. So it's like a new day. Your father, Mom said, thinks I should have a talk with you. She spoke with a sort of exasperated amusement as she set the sink to filling and handed me a vegetable peeler. Oh? He says you've been seeing a lot of that boy from up the hill lately. William? She raised her eyebrows at me, inviting me to laugh. He thinks this is a good time to make sure you don't have any questions.
Oh. He's like, Sarah, will you do the birds and the bees? I don't want to.
Pretty much. I snorted, picking up a potato. That's what I said. She slapped off the water. Personally, I think it's safe to say you've got this. You know you can come and talk to me if you need anything, right? Sure. Provided she wasn't on a deadline at the time, or absorbed in a project, or handling a Deidre crisis. Whatever. Fucking bitch. Like, your mom works really fucking hard, and you don't make her job any easier, and you're like, she's always handling a Deidre crisis. Well, if you would stop being such a bitch to your sister, she wouldn't always be handling a Deidre...
Deidre crisis. You'd be handling the Deidre...
Yeah, exactly.
Or there wouldn't be a Deidre crisis, because you'd be there, hanging out with her.
And so, like, stop giving your mom such a hard time, being like, your mom's trying to reach out and be like, you know you can always come and talk to me, and you don't have to be like, if you're not too busy about it. Like, you...
Here's the thing. Just interrupt. It's okay.
Yeah, good God.
I try to tell people that at work all the time. They're like, yeah, my boss, they're in a meeting right now. I'll just interrupt. If it's important enough, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Regardless.
Regardless.
Back to Skye and her birds and the bees conversation.
You know you can come and talk to me if you need to, right? Sure, provided she wasn't on a deadline at the time or absorbed in a project or handling a Deidre crisis. Whatever. She was right. Everything was fine. Everything was going exactly as it should. Even if I wasn't sure what to do with it, I'd manage. I dealt with a scary problem all on my own. The only thing, she hesitated, and I tensed. There was a certain voice she always used when trying to play diplomat between me and Deidre, to get me to include her, to apologize, to extend the olive branch. Of course that's where this was going. God forbid we talk about my life for 5 minutes of a stretch. Boo fucking who, Skye? Not everything is about you. I know that you're like, they always make everything about Deidre, and Deidre gets all this attention, and I never get to talk about my life. Your life is fucking shit, and nobody cares about you. Okay, that's not true, but like...
Is Deidre... Are they actually about to bring up Deidre right now?
She is.
Oh... She called. It would be better if she had that thought and that wasn't what was brought up.
That would have been funny.
I would have been better, in my opinion.
I agree. But, no, she was like, the only thing... And I'm like, even if Deidre is the thing that's about to be brought up, like, Skye, let it or, how about this? How about you voice your concern and can be like, Mom, can we talk about literally anything other than Deidre? Please, because I feel like we talk about her all the time, and I would like to talk about just you and me, or just me. I want you to be interested in my life, too.
Yeah,
like,
I felt like it would be more fun if it was like, of course we're going to talk about Deidre, and then they don't, so it shows like how much of an asshole the character is.
Oh, that'd be really good.
That would have been really nice.
Yeah.
But since it actually is going to be what she thought, we're just more into the circle of self-servingness.
Yeah.
Of Skye being right.
Yeah. Which also shows a lot of, like, why she's such a bitch, I guess. As far as, like, she's not wrong about some of this stuff. Although, like, I don't know, like, that whole scene with the teenagers at Halloween, I'm like, when she's like, yeah, Deidre's being overreacting and reacting to nothing. I'm like...
Literally gets attacked by...
literally gets shoved by somebody who's bigger than her. I'm like... You're a fucking bitch. I'm sorry. Okay, anyways. Of course that was where this was going. God forbid we talk about my life for 5 minutes at a stretch. I love that you're making friends, Skye, but maybe spend some time with Deidre soon? I think she's feeling pretty lonely. I focused on the potato I was peeling and didn't answer. She told me the other day that it's as if you don't even like her anymore. She was bringing out the big guns. And it worked. My conscience prickled. I dunked the potato in the water-filled sink and let it fall into Mom's bowl. She picked it up and started slicing, but I could feel her watching me. I wasn't going to get away without responding to that one. She just always wants to play the same game, I muttered. And you're bored of it. I'm just done with the kingdoms, you know? I'm too old for that stuff. So is she. Why can't she just grow up like a normal human being, I wanted to say, but I closed my teeth on the words and fell silent, wielding the peeler in savage little strokes. Bits of potato skin flew into the sink. Maybe there's something else you could do together, Mom suggested after a long moment. Something inside? We're always together, I shot back. I don't even have a different room anymore. How am I supposed to get away from her? There was a telltale sniffle from behind me. I hunched my shoulders and refused to turn around as footsteps thumped away from the kitchen, accelerating toward the end of the hall. A door slammed. Mom closed her eyes and sighed, sagging a little against the counter. "We'll talk about this later," she said, sounding pained, and hurried after Deidre, wiping her hands on her jeans. That's so awkward, and I can't handle it, but also just, like, it's an important conversation for Skye to have, and she never wants to have it, of being like, I'm kind of getting too old to play these games, and I want Deidre, like, she does need to express to somebody her feelings, and it's like they are having a good conversation, but she never wants to have that conversation because she's like, why is it always about Deidre and not me? And
because
I'm like,
you need to talk about Deidre.
because you need to talk about it, you fucking bitch. Yeah, and then of course Deidre does kind of ruin that little moment that she and her mom are having and stuff like that by being all dramatic and stormy. But, like, I'm also imagining from Deidre's perspective of, like, if I came in and heard my sister being like,
it's been like,
what if I want to get away from her? I'd be like,
you've been avoiding me for months.
literally, like, what do you mean you guys are always together? No, you're not. Just because you share a room doesn't mean that. You're literally always looking for a way to not be near her, and that is not fair, and it's mean. Like, and so, like, if I walked into the kitchen and heard my sister saying that, I would run to my room crying too. Like,
your sister and only friend.
yeah, literally. Like, and she said that Deidre does have a hard time making friends, so it's like, don't be a bitch. I don't know. Okay. So that night, Deidre didn't come out of her room. And when Skye went to bed, because again, they still share a room at this point, she's giving Skye the silent treatment. And then Skye had this weird ass nightmare that I need some more time to dissect. But this is basically what happened. So she's in the dream, she's following their cat through their old house's garden. And the plants in the garden are kind of like alive, and they're like reaching out for her, and like the tips of them are red. Which I'm like, is that blood? I don't know what that is.
Blood?
I don't know. And behind her, she hears Deidre, like, mocking her in some way. She would say stuff like, some champion you are. You're the Queen of Swords. You have to do something. And in the dream, Skye says what she finally felt. Like, she finally says what she felt, which was that it wasn't her responsibility. She didn't have to do something. And she's like, I should have said it then, but I'm going to say it now. And she's like, no, I don't have to do something. That's not my job. Even though you and I discussed this last time. Yes, it fucking is your job, but okay. And then, like, the plants start attacking Skye. I don't really get it. I don't understand. But, like, they're, like, grabbing at her, and like, the plants basically are turning into, like, hands, and they're, like, grabbing at her mouth, which I'm like, that's really weird and creepy, and I don't like that. And on the one hand, Skye wants to scream for Deidre to help her, which I'm like, ooh, how the turntables have turned with her being like, you know, she's always the one protecting Deidre, but now she's like wanting Deidre to protect her in a way. But at the same time, she also has to keep her mouth shut so that the plants don't reach inside her mouth, which I'm like, ew, that makes me feel so uncomfortable on so many levels. And then Deidre starts maniacally laughing in the dream. And then Skye wakes up to the sound of something screaming. She clarifies that it's not a human, but it's a very urgent and, like, primal sound kind of thing. Like, something is, like, dying, screaming, or something like that. And so she wakes up. I sat up, clutching my blanket, as the insect singing silence washed back into place. Across the room, Deidre's eyes were open, staring at me. Deidre? I whispered. Did you hear that? She didn't acknowledge that I had spoken. Didn't blink. Stop it, I said, a little louder. You're freaking me out. She sighed and rolled over, away from me, her breath deep and slow. She didn't stir when I whispered her name again. So apparently she wasn't awake. I'm, like, so freaked out by Deidre being, like, awake but not awake. Of, like, just fucking... Can you imagine, though, like, waking up in the middle of the night and you see your sister just, like, staring at you, but she's not blinking and she's not doing it, like she's not responding to anything, and then she just rolls over and she's like not quite sleepwalking because she's not walking, but that's the kind of thing where like she's asleep but her eyes are open. That'd be so fucking freaky, especially after that weird ass nightmare that Skye just had.
I didn't interpret it that way as you were reading. As
What?
her being asleep still.
Oh, that is what Skye kind of concluded. Skye concluded that she wasn't actually she wasn't actually awake.
I interpreted it as she was awake, looking at her because she bolted upright, and then just was still ignoring her.
No, here. I'm close enough in the book. Let me pull up the actual book and not my notes, because the way that I read it, it made it sound like, so here's the whole passage without me, like, making some edits. I woke to the sound of something screaming. Not a human sound, but the terror in it needed no translation. The jagged shadow of the woods was perfectly still across the star-spattered sky. I sat up, clutching my blanket, as the insect-singing silence washed back into place. Across the room, Deidre's eyes were open, staring at me. "Deidre?" I whispered. "Did you hear that?" She didn't acknowledge I had spoken, didn't blink. "Stop it," I said a little louder. "You're freaking me out." She sighed and rolled over, away from me, her breath deep and slow. She didn't stir when I whispered her name again. Not actually awake, apparently. But I watched her for a while, anyways, as my dream plucked at me with sharp little fingers, replaying the path of the gray tail through the ferns. Oh God, was Mog still outside?
Yeah, that I interpreted as she was awake, looking at her, sighed, rolled over, went to sleep.
Not actually awake, apparently, is literally a line in the fucking book.
After, like, time has passed, like...
It's in the same paragraph. She sighed and rolled over away from me, her breath deep and slow. She didn't stir when I whispered her name again.
Yeah.
Not actually awake, apparently.
Rolled over, sighed and rolled over, and then fell asleep.
Not actually awake.
I don't know.
The word actually makes it seem like, oh, she wasn't actually just staring at me. Like, no. Deidre was, okay, folks in the like,
okay,
listeners.
don't bring the audience in.
No, I'm gonna bring the audience into it. You need to tell us, is Deidre awake and ignoring Skye? Or am I right? And is Deidre fucking a creepy sleepwalker fucking bitch? Because that's what it sounds like, is that Deidre's awake, or Deidre's asleep.
Sleep staring. She's a sleep starer.
She's a sleep starer. And then Skye, like, starts to, like, gain her bearings and realizes that the scream she heard might have been their cat. Because she's like, did we let the cat back in? And so she, like, gets up and looks around the house, doesn't find the cat, and then goes over to the patio door where the cat's, like, pawing, trying to get in, and so she lets the cat in. She, like, picks up the cat for a little bit and, like, drops it on the floor and whatever. The cat scampers off. Stupid cat. I drew a trembling breath and sagged against the patio door. Beyond the faintest outlines of my reflection, the night was moonless, the woods perfectly still. I stood there, breathing in the smell of water, watching for movement that never came.
Ooh.
And then she went back to bed, but said that she had a hard time falling asleep. And that's where I, like, ended. Ugh. It just freaked me out. And then that dream freaked me out. And then...
The describing of the stillness of night, that got me. Because that is exactly how it is most of the time. You're way out there, and you're like, oh man, I gotta pee. And it's just like dead silent, or it's just a little bit of wind, like... It's creepy.
It's super creepy.
You're like, damn, there's a lot of darkness out here.
Well, and especially because, like, a couple chapters ago, we ended with Skye also feeling like something was out in the woods calling to her. And so this is before that. Like, this is back in time. And so I wonder if there is, like, something in the woods watching. Like, I got the feeling, because, like, when it said something about, like, how she's looking for movement that didn't come, I'm like, is somebody out there watching you and just standing very still? Like, that's where I get, like, spooked. Like, is there something out there? I don't know. And the fact that, like...
Yeah, all of nature's up.
Okay, is there something wicked out there? Like, is there a...
Yes, all of nature.
Oh my god, I'm so done with you.
Are you trying to get along with... Is there a creep out there?
Or a scary demon.
A daemon?
A daemon? Alright, I think I am done. I think I've said all the things that I wanted to say about this book so far. I like this book a lot. I, like, really want to keep reading it.
Yeah, the full passages you read, like, the language is so good.
I love the way that she, like, drops little hints of who people are. I love the dynamic of the four of them, because Sophie really likes Skye as well. The two of them are, like, becoming best friends as well. But I love that, like, Skye is pretending that she is not a I mean, I don't want to say that Skye's a monster. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. She might just... I've been calling her a bitch this whole time. But, like, I don't know if she's the monster of this story. But I definitely think that she's capable of being the monster of the story.
She's being pretty monstrous to her family the whole time so far.
And I love that Kevin can see that.
Yeah.
He's not even afraid to tell her that he sees that. Like, I loved that scene.
He's the natural leader. William's
a nice guy. Mostly, though, he's like you. I'm gonna start calling him Ian. No, that's gonna confuse too many people. But no, he seriously, like, the way that he is both, like, the nerd and the jock, I was like, oh my god, it's Ian.
I'm sorry to tell you, I had a bow for a long time.
You did not.
I did. And I would do target practice in the backyard.
Oh my god, Ian, no.
Anyway, I was going to say, I learned this author has a pretty decent understanding of how to describe wilderness in both wonder and creepiness based off how much light there is.
I learned that you're really stubborn and refuse to play another game because you're like, I might not feel like it. I don't care if you feel like it. Just play something else because you apparently can't actually talk about, what is it, Warframe?
Warframe.
Play another game. Please. I beg of you. So where can people find us, Ian?
They can find us on Instagram at
A Pot of Sass.
They can shoot us an email at
apotofsass@gmail.com.
And check out our Patreon.
It's actually patreon.com/apotofsassandSarcasm. I know that's a lot. I wanted it to be Aposass, but right now I'm having issues with making it Aposass.
Yeah. We got a couple episodes on there now, including our test episodes, so I think those are fun as well.
Yeah. Our test episodes are not at all about this book. They're about the series that inspired us to do this podcast in the first place. And they're kind of weird because they start in a really random spot just so that we could see what worked for this podcast in the format and what wouldn't. So there's less editing in those, and they're just kind of us talking to each other and being kind of crazy. So those are fun, and if you are feeling so inclined and would like to help support this podcast in the financial ways, you can become a donor or become a member of our podcast. We have tiers as low as $1 a month, and up to, I think, $20 a month.
Yeah.
And I think you can make your own custom one. If you're like, $20 is nothing, I'm gonna give you all of my money. That'd be so cool. But, no, if you're feeling so inclined, please donate to our Patreon. It really helps support the podcast. Maybe it could help us get some soundproofing for this so that you're not listening to traffic the whole time.
Or some different microphones and a mixer.
Oh, that'd be so nice. So that I don't have to sit this far away from the microphone when I shout.
Yeah.
I probably still have to sit far away from whatever microphone we get.
I'll have to turn the gain way down.
Yeah. I'm trying really hard not to hurt all of everybody's ear holes.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening. We really hope that you keep listening.
We'll catch you next time.
Stay sassy, nerds.
Later.